What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be doing things a little differently. We're going to be doing a direct comparison between the 5.3 and the 6.2 on GM's 1500 platform trucks to see which motor is right for you. But first, I want to extend a huge thank you to Felipe Portillo and Duane Ferguson over at Koons, Tysons, Chevy. I'll have their information on screen as well as in the description box down below. But with that said, let's get into the video. And again, this is a reminder that this is not an in-depth review of the Denali or the Silverado. This is just a direct comparison between the 5.3 and 6.2 powertrain in both of these trucks. If you guys want an in-depth review, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. Also, please hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers within the next month or two, so please hit that subscribe button, help me make it happen. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you any money. But let's get into the video. First and foremost, let's talk about the 6.2's performance. So let's pop this hood right here real quick. When you opt for the 6.2, it comes with 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. With these horsepower numbers in mind, and with a four-wheel drive crew cab, this 6.2 is able to push this truck from 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, which is very impressive considering the weight of this truck being over 5,000 pounds. Also, that 5.4 second 0 to 60, I believe, is the same 0 to 60 time as the Power Boost F-150 that I did a review on a couple videos ago, which is pretty impressive considering that this does not have an electric powertrain or twin turbo V6. This is just a naturally aspirated 6.2 V8. So I think that's pretty cool. It also has a max towing capacity of 12,200 pounds when equipped properly. And let's be real, if you're opting for the 6.2, you probably aren't too worried about miles per gallon. However, I'm gonna give you the numbers anyway. The 6.2 with a crew cab configuration and four-wheel drive gets 15 miles per gallon city, 20 miles per gallon highway with 16 miles per gallon combined. So, you know, not the best, not the worst, but you are opting for the bigger V8 that's faster and can tow more. So the slight drop in miles per gallon is understandable. But the observant viewer may know that I keep saying opt for the 6.2. So yes, the 6.2 is an optional $2,500 upcharge that's only available on, if you get the Chevy, it's only available on the Trail Boss, RST, LTZ, and High Country with only a four-wheel drive configuration. Another thing that I think is important to add is that the 6.2 can only come optioned with the 10-speed auto, whereas the 5.3 can be optioned with the 6, 8, or 10 speeds. So only one transmission option that you can get with the 6.2. And yes, this is a Denali, but yeah, I'm talking about the Silverado. So with the Silverado, you can only get the 10-speed, and you can only get it in four-wheel drive when you opt for the 6.2, whereas with the 5.3, you can get two-wheel drive with a 6-speed, two-wheel drive with an 8-speed, four-wheel drive with a 6-speed, and so on and so forth. But we've talked a little bit about the 6.2, so let's move on to the 5.3. So I'm going to pop the hood on the 5.3 here real quick. Open up the door. Pop the hood. And if you look at the interior, they're actually very similar trucks, except obviously the Denali is a lot nicer and it's got a lot better finishes. But let's pop the hood. And boom. And if you look at the engine bay on both of these trucks, they both look very, very similar. You know, there's not really much different about them other than that this is a 5.3, this is a 6.2, this has 420 horsepower, this one has 355 horsepower. So let's start talking about the 5.3. I'd say that the 5.3 is probably the most common motor used in 1500 Chevys, and for good reason. You know, it's still a great motor and it's more than adequate power for towing in everyday use. So like I said, the 5.3 makes 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, which pushes this Silverado from 0 to 60 a second slower than the 6.2 for a time of 6.4 seconds. So like I said, the 6.2 has a 0 to 60 time of 5.4 seconds and the 5.3 has a 0 to 60 of 6.4 seconds. Which is still respectable in my opinion for a vehicle that weighs over 5,000 pounds, like I said earlier. And when the Silverado is equipped properly, the 5.3 has a maximum towing capacity of 11,600 pounds, which is only 600 pounds less than the 6.2's maximum towing capacity. But you pay that $2,500 upcharge for the ease of power with the 6.2. Obviously it's going to be a lot smoother, and it's going to take a lot less effort to push this Silverado or Sierra from 0 to 60, or just around or on the highway or towing. It's not going to work as hard to tow the same amount of weight, which could equate to better gas mileage when towing. Speaking of gas mileage, when the 5.3 is mated to the 10-speed auto and has 4-wheel drive, it's able to achieve 15 miles per gallon city and 21 miles per gallon highway. But this Silverado is equipped with the 8-speed, so this Silverado gets 14 miles per gallon city and 21 miles per gallon highway. So that's actually 1 mile per gallon worse in the city than the 6.2. But again, this is the 8-speed, so when you get the 10-speed 5.3, it does have better gas mileage by a few miles per gallon. But unlike the 6.2, you can get the 5.3 in all trim levels of the Silverado, with the exception of the custom. So I believe if you're on a budget, you should probably go for the 5.3. Again, it is a great motor, and it can pull 11,600 pounds when equipped properly. So you know, that's more than enough weight before you start stepping into like a 2,500 or a 3,500 truck. But you know, this video is more about what I think the driving impression is of both of these two trucks, and less about the statistics and stuff like that. So we're gonna get both of these trucks out on the road, and I'm gonna tell you my driving impressions of how I feel how the different trucks act. Obviously I'm gonna go into the comparison feeling that the 6.2 is probably gonna do a little bit better, but I am going to try to open up my mind to the 5.3 as well, and give them both an even playing field. So obviously I'm going to keep in mind daily driving. I'm going to keep in mind the $2,500 upcharge that you have to get the 6.2. But also, you know, you're not just paying that $2,500 upcharge when you're going up to the 6.2. To get into the 6.2 in a Silverado, you have to have one of the higher level trim levels to even be able to opt for a 6.2. So you got to keep that in mind when you're comparing these two cars as well. But like I said, we're going to start taking out the Sierra. I'm going to tell you how I feel like that motor pushes that car around, and then after we do that, I'm going to tell you how I feel about the 5.3 and how that pushes the car around. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to keep all the stuff in mind that I was just talking about, and I'm going to tell you at the end of the video which truck I believe is better for the money. So I'm sure you guys want to know how the 6.2 and the 5.3 both sound at startup and a couple revs. So I'm going to walk over behind the Sierra Denali 6.2, and we're going to do a startup right here. So, you know, not the loudest thing in the world, but it does sound good. Got a healthy deep exhaust note to it, and obviously if you want to make it a little louder, you can get a Borla exhaust, a Corsa exhaust, you can do a muffler delete, stuff like that. But from factory, this thing does sound pretty good. It's definitely very quiet though, and I'm sure that's got to do with like government regulations and stuff like that. But walking over behind the 5.3, I'm gonna hear how this thing sounds from a startup too. And here we go, start her up. And this thing's got a pretty healthy startup itself, you know. It kind of sounds very similar. It's definitely not as deep or bassy as a tone as the 6.2. And obviously this thing's pretty quiet as well. But we're gonna do a couple revs on this thing as well. Let's hear how this thing sounds. You know, that thing actually has a pretty good sound itself. I think this thing with an exhaust would also sound very good. But obviously the 6.2 is probably going to have a better, deeper sound than the 5.3. But we're going to find that out on the road. We'll do a couple accelerations, and we're going to compare the performance and just how each motor performs and how each motor pulls the truck, you know, in everyday accelerations from stop signs, stoplights to stoplights, stuff like that. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the Denali driver's seat, and then I'll see you guys in the Silverado driver's seat. And now on to the drive comparison of the 6.2 versus the 5.3. And obviously you can't really compare the two trucks side by side, because this is a GMC Sierra Denali and the other one's just a Silverado 1500 RST. So, you know, we're not comparing apples to apples here, trim level wise. And, you know, that's not really what this video is about. Again, this video is about comparing the 6.2 to the 5.3. So I'm going to do a little acceleration right here. Giving it a little bit of gas. And this does have the 10-speed transmission, and the shifts are very quick. They keep the car in the power band, which is great for, you know, daily use, and when you're, you know, trying to go from stoplight to stoplight, stuck in traffic and stuff like that. But let's try to give it just a little jab, and it goes right into the gear you want it to go in when you're accelerating. So yeah, definitely do like that 10-speed transmission. It works great with the 6.2, and like I mentioned earlier in the video, you can't option the 6.2 with an 8-speed. So this is obviously there is going to be a little hindrance because the Silverado that we're driving has the 8-speed, and you can't option the 6.2 with the 10-speed, but you can option the 5.3 with the 6, 8, and 10-speed. So, you know, keep that in mind when I'm doing this review, that you can option the other truck, the 5.3, with the 10-speed, and the other truck that we are reviewing for you today, that's got the 8-speed. So, you know, I'm going about 45 miles an hour right now, and I'm at 1300 RPM. So this 10-speed transmission's got me going in the right gear, but I want to shift gears, get into this lane, and yeah, the transmission does a great job. And honestly, it doesn't feel like it's a 10-speed transmission. It's not like boom, 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 like just keeps shifting gears and it doesn't know what gear it wants to be in. It does a great job of keeping you in the gear that you want to be in, and when you hit the throttle, it shifts you down into the gear that you want to be in. So definitely the 10-speed is a great transmission. So obviously if you're looking at getting like a 5.3, because you don't want to step up to the 6.2, definitely look into getting the 5.3 with the 10-speed. Although I have not driven the 8-speed, so I don't know. Maybe the 8-speed is a great transmission and I'm, you know, sleeping on it a little bit. But definitely liking this 10-speed, and now we're in a little 35-mile-an-hour zone. And, you know, this thing gets up to speed, like we're going 35 miles an hour. It gets up to speed, no problem. You don't really even need to get over 2,000 RPM to accelerate fairly quickly to, you know, 35, 40 miles an hour. So yeah, I mean, definitely that probably does help out with the gas mileage. The 10-speed definitely helps out with the gas mileage. The motor not having to work super hard definitely helps out with gas mileage. And those two, obviously in collaboration, really help out with gas mileage together. So obviously the obvious choice between the 5.3 and the 6.2 is obviously going to be the 6.2. I mean, you're probably like lying to yourself if you say you think that the 5.3 is the quote-unquote better motor. But, you know, keeping in mind that this is a $2,500 upgrade just to get the motor, but to get the 6.2 in the Silverado, you have to get the better trim levels. So you're probably spending like $5,000 to $7,000 more just to get the 6.2, because you do have to step up to, I think the lowest trim level that you can get with the 6.2 is like the LT. So yeah, you do, obviously you're spending an extra premium on the LT rather than, like, you know, just the work truck or something like that, one of the lower end trim levels. So yeah, just like my initial remarks on the 6.2 is that you can definitely tell it's a very torquey motor. I haven't really gotten it high up in the RPM, so I can't talk to you about the horsepower, but we're probably going to do that right here. I'm going to give it a little acceleration, and I'm going to tell you, see, like just right when you hit it, it's like it's ready to go. It's like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. And that's definitely something that I really appreciate about the 6.2, is that you don't have to give it much gas to get it going. So let's do a little hard acceleration. Woo, she sounds good too. And yeah, definitely no slouch. Like that was a pretty good speed. And man, that 6.2 sounds so good. So basically, to give you a little background, I do have a 2010 Camaro SS, and that is a 6.2 LS3. So I guess maybe you could say I'm a little biased to the 6.2. And I mean, anybody who knows really anything about motors is probably going to be biased to 6.2. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's a, you know, higher displacement motor. So obviously the if you're looking on paper and you're looking at the 5.3 and you keep the price of the 5.3 versus the 6.2 out of question, you're gonna pick the 6.2 every day. But it all comes down to price, and you know, maybe you don't want a 4-wheel drive truck, maybe you do want the 5.3. So obviously there are people who are gonna choose the 5.3, but just in my personal opinion of driving this truck right here, you know, it's got the perfect amount of power that you want in a truck. It's got a great sound. The gas mileage isn't terrible. Obviously it's not the best gas mileage, but you know, what is it, like 15 miles per gallon city and 20 on the highway? You know, you can't really complain about that. You know, it is a 5,000 plus pound truck. You are, like, maybe you're gonna be working, maybe you're gonna use this as a work truck, like you're the foreman or something like that, and you got, you know, this nice truck and you're gonna be pulling stuff. Well, yeah, you're definitely gonna wanna hit the 6.2. And you're probably gonna get better gas mileage when you're towing with the 6.2 as well. So we've talked about how I feel about the 6.2, but now let's hop into the 5.3 and let's see how the 5.3 compares to the 6.2. So I'll see you guys in the 5.3 driver's seat. And just like that, we are in the 5.3, and you know, obviously, and this isn't a review video, but the interior in the Denali is definitely a lot nicer than what it is in this RST. But you know, they do have their similarities, and they obviously do have their differences as well. But this is more about the 5.3 versus the 6.2. So right off the bat, when I was pulling out of the parking lot, just getting out of driving the 6.2, you definitely do notice that this thing does have less torque. I haven't gotten it high up into the RPM, so I haven't really talked about like horsepower or anything like that. But you definitely do notice that this thing does have, like, I think it's 80 foot-pounds less torque. And yeah, you do notice that. But that being said, this thing still does not feel like a slouch. It's got the power that you need. I mean, it can still pull a lot of weight. So you're definitely not lacking. You're definitely not driving a V6. But you know, definitely the 6.2, when I came to a stop, did not have, I don't think anyway, have auto stop start. This 5.3 does, and it's either that I didn't notice if it had it, or if it didn't have auto stop start, but it never turned off when I came to a stoplight or anything like that. And you know, I'm definitely, I don't like auto stop start, so that's not knocking the 5.3 or anything at all. I'm just, you know, pointing out that this 5.3 does have auto stop start, and the 6.2 it did not auto stop start. But I'm trying to look for the auto stop start button to turn it off, and I don't think I can see it. There it is. So yeah, you know, turning that back on, and as soon as this light changes right here, I'll tell you guys my impressions of the 5.3's acceleration versus the 6.2's acceleration. So here we go. You know, definitely a good amount of torque on the low end, but let's accelerate onto here. I'm not even gonna lie, the 5.3 definitely, it's got some good get up by itself. And like I said, we're not doing a review, but the Denali definitely rides a lot better, and you can definitely feel their magnetic ride control that's in the Denali. You know, I just went over these same exact bumps, and it definitely throws me around a little bit more in this car as opposed to the Denali. But obviously, we're comparing a Chevy to a GMC, which you can't do. You can't really compare the two. We're, again, strictly comparing the motors to each other. And the 5.3 definitely doesn't disappoint. I mean, it's definitely, it's got some good power to it. Let's hit it again. And this thing in itself sounds really good too. Like, I can't say that this thing sounds bad at all, because it sounds very good. And you know, I don't feel like this thing lacks any power, especially, you know, I just got out of the 6.2. And it doesn't feel like this thing's anemic. It doesn't feel like this thing's slow. It doesn't even honestly feel like this thing needs any more power. But if you do want that extra bit of power, and you know, it does have a deeper exhaust tone, or at least induction tone, in the 6.2. So if you're looking at getting, you know, a faster car, obviously you're gonna go with the 6.2. If you're looking at, you know, probably doing modifications to your truck right out of the factory, you're probably looking at getting the 6.2. But you know, the 5.3 is plenty good enough. Like, I don't feel like this thing, like, you know, just barely put my foot down. It's got really good low end torque. Yeah, I mean, I was expecting, honest to God, I was expecting this to feel anemic, especially getting right out of the 6.2. but it doesn't feel like that. That's not the case. This thing's definitely got enough get up and go. It's got enough low end torque, and even when you get higher up in the RPMs, you know, it's got enough horsepower even, you know, where it's like, well, do I really need to spend the extra 2,500 on the 6.2? So I would say, and this is just you know, my opinion, if you're on a budget and, you know, you're like, do I get the 6.2? Do I want to spend the extra whatever it is, you know, because you got to step up in the trim level. Do I want to spend the extra 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever $1,000 difference it is between the 5.3 and the 6.2? I would say if you're on a budget, I don't think you really got to worry about getting the 6.2. I don't know if it's really worth the extra money if you're on a budget. Now, if you're not on a budget and, you know, you're into the power and you're going to be towing things, you got a boat that you want to tow, and you know, you just want the extra power, I think the 6.2 is definitely the way to go if you're not on a budget. I'm definitely obviously over the 2 motors. If money was not an option, I would choose the 6.2. If money was an option, you know, I probably try at least maybe to save up for a 6.2. But if my option is, you know, hey, I don't really want to spend the extra money, I want to get a truck, I want a V8, I want something that's going to sound good if I do an exhaust to it, and I want like a platform that I can modify and throw a supercharger on, you know, the 5.3 is still a great option, you know. So obviously if you're on a budget and, you know, you want the V8 and you don't want to spend the extra money, go with the 5.3. But if you're not on a budget and, you know, you want the extra power, you want the extra low end torque, and you want a great base platform motor to, you know, do modifications, throw a supercharger on it, turbos, whatever, go with the 6.2. So in conclusion, I would say that, you know, the 5.3 is still a fantastic motor choice, and that's probably why that the 5.2 is so common, is because it's just a great motor and it's got the power that you need, and, you know, it's got the great V8 sound too. You know, this thing does sound very good in and of itself, and the 6.2 again sounds very good in and of itself. But it all comes down to money. It's a money thing. If you want a 2-wheel drive truck, you're gonna have to get the 5.3. If you want a 2-wheel or a 4-wheel drive truck, then you get the 6.2. But like I said, if you want the 6.2, you can't get rear-wheel drive. If you want the 6.2, you can't get the 8-speed. And again, this is a great transmission. I haven't really had any issues with it. And again, I haven't really driven it all that much. If I had this thing for a week and I had the 6.2 for a week, I would say, you know, I'd probably have a greater insight on both of them and how they both feel. But, you know, right off the bat and just driving them both for like 30 minutes each, I would say right off the bat that you probably don't need the 6.2. And, you know, that's coming from somebody who obviously I love bigger displacement motors, and I love bigger motors. I love naturally aspirated V8s. But honest to God, you don't really need the 6.2 unless, you know, you want more power and all that kind of stuff, which in my case, I definitely would probably try to at least save up for the 6.2. You know, just save up the extra money if you really, you know, again, if you want the extra power. But they're both great motor choices, but the bottom line is, do you want to spend the extra money on the 6.2? And, you know, if it was me, I would do it. But if, you know, you're on a budget and you're debating it, just go with the 5.3. I don't think you're really going to be disappointed by the power that you get, or the sound that you get, or, you know, the shifting that you get with the 8-speed. And you can also get the 10-speed with the 5.3. So the 5.3 is a fantastic motor choice. And, you know, if you're looking into stepping into one of these trucks, don't be shy to test drive both. And, you know, if you test drive both, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know why you chose the 5.3, and let me know why you chose the 6.2. I'm really curious to see what your guys' insight is after daily driving your 5.3 or your 6.2 every day for, you know, months or even years. But with that said, that's going to be the end of today's video. And, you know, this is my first comparison video, so I know that this comparison is probably not going to be the best that there is on YouTube. However, you know, you got to start somewhere. So this is obviously, again, my first comparison video. So if you guys did enjoy this, please hit that subscribe button, and also please give this video a thumbs up. You know, all that stuff looks very good in the YouTube algorithm, and it'll help me get to my 1,000 subscriber goal, which is what I have set for right now. So please, if you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have a 5.3 or a 6.2, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of your guys' 5.3 or 6.2. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.